Hi there, BookTube! My name is Christina and welcome back to Novel Niche. Today I'm here with part 2 of my most anticipated books of summer 2021. And if you've watched the first part, I will link it down below. If not, go and just watch it. Today we will be talking about the books that were released in July and in August. Unfortunately, as you may see, I'm very late to the party, but the nice thing is that you already may go out there, order these books, read them, borrow them from the library, wherever you want. Just go and grab it if you want it, because it's already out there. I'm very late this year, but for a couple of good reasons you will discover in future updates. And right now, let me get right to the video. We have more than 10 books, I believe, for this video. Again, with a mix of genres. As you know me, I read a bit of everything. So let's start with the first one, and the first one is a new release that was supposed to come out in 2020, but it was pushed back, so I hope that it has been actually released at this point, because sometimes Goodreads is a little bit like funny like that. It's not very good at being update with date release. Sometimes it's like it shifts and whatever. But the first one is a non-fiction book, and it's 10 Steps to Nanette by Hannah Gadsby. This is an autobiography, a memoir kind of story, and this one, if you want to have a sample of what it's about, I believe that will be like a more comprehensive and extensive version of the show, the stand-up comedy that you can find by this comedian and author on Netflix, and it's called, again, Nanette, or 10 Steps to Nanette, exactly like that. Just give it a try, because it is funny, but it's also incredibly touchy and incredibly deep, with a huge punch in it, and it will punch you right in your gut sometimes, but I think that it's worth it to be watched, and I hope that the book will have even more content that will be even more extensive and comprehensive again. So this is an LGBTQ+ non-fiction autobiography. So if you're interested in something like that, go give it a chance, because the author has a unique kind of sense of humor, and I love it when you can face some very hard topics but still with some auto-irony and a bit of sarcasm and things like that. So just give it a chance. Then the next one that we have here is The Tiger Mom's Tale, and this one is a contemporary adult fiction. This book is set in between New York and Taiwan, and we're following a biracial, I believe, or it's not a matter of race, it's even a matter of nations, so a binational, whatever. Yeah, we're following a woman who is half American and half Taiwanese, and she went to Taiwan when she was little, but she never felt as Taiwanese enough, and then when she lived in America she never felt like American enough. And this is something that a lot of people who are biracial, bi whatever, can understand. You often find yourself like stuck in the middle if you're an immigrant, or even if you just move countries at a certain point in your life. You know that it's tough sometimes, and this is something that we're facing here. But the protagonist suddenly has to move back to Taiwan because her father passes away, and he leaves all of his properties to her, and so now she needs to kind of administrate them so that her Taiwanese part of family won't lose everything. And she kind of got stuck in between family dynamics and things that will be happening, and she will have to face the fears that she had and I think that it will be a lovely book. Not lovely in the sense of a quiet and easy read, but lovely in the sense of a rich and enriching reading experience. I very much appreciate when these kind of topics about different cultures clashing and family dynamics are very well written, so I hope that this book will be one of those. Then again in July, this amazing book with this beautiful cover was released, and it is Island Queen by Vanessa Riley. And this is a historical fiction book that is based on a real person. So it is fiction, but also not exactly fiction. And in this one we're following an amazing woman who was born on a small Caribbean island, and she kind of freed herself from slavery, and slowly she built herself up to become a property owner and a landowner, and being I believe a black woman from what I see also from the cover. It's amazing. This is something that I really love seeing, when you have a story of a woman who kind of builds herself up and helps her family and other around her, and even more so it's important to see a black woman doing so. So I hope that this will be an amazing read. Even if it is fictional, it's still based on a non-fiction personality, so of course after reading this fictional part I will for sure delve a little bit deeper and go searching for more informations like on the non-fiction side of this story. But the premise is amazing, the cover is amazing, what not to love here. Next is a funny, fluffy kind of read, a very summer kind of read, and it's Reputation by Lex Croucher. This is a standalone romance with a historical setting, and it is meant to be a bit extra, a bit absurd, but we're in for it. I mean, it's a perfect summer read, but also it's a perfect read for wherever you want that pick-me-up or something lighter in between very hard or just long books. And for this one, it is sold as rom-com with a Regency era twist for fans of Mean Girls and Bridgerton. I mean, we're following Georgiana, who has moved to live with her uncle and aunt, and suddenly she meets this person who introduces her to an upper circle of people, and there, I will read directly from Goodreads, it says, "High society isn't all it's cracked up to be, and the price of entry might be more than Georgiana is willing to pay. Full of lavish parties, handsome men on horseback, and laugh out loud humor, this is the summer read everyone's talking about." So, seems amazing. I love that cover. It definitely makes me think about Bridgerton, and sometimes you just need that kind of light, absurd, and over-the-top read. And why not? Romance is perfect when you combine all of those things together. Next is a young adult contemporary romance, and it's XOXO by Axie O. And in this one we're following our main protagonist, whose name is Jenny, and she wants to get to this elite, prestigious music conservatory, but then suddenly she meets this boy and she kind of falls in love with him at first sight, or kinda, and he kinda makes her think about changing some things about her life. But this is just a fling, and a thing that lasts for the briefest of times. So then she's forced to go back with her mom to South Korea, where her grandmother lives, I believe, and there she discovers that this boy for whom she had this thing lives there. Not only he lives there, he goes to the elite music school where she will enter, apparently, plus he's a part of one of the most famous, like worldwide famous K-pop boy bands. And one of the things in K-pop very well known is that often K-pop idols aren't allowed to date. So things got complicated. I think that there will be a lot of angst, and I'm very curious to see what will happen. I think that this kind of story may attract a lot of different readers, because a lot of people right now love K-pop. I'm one of those, and so it just makes you kind of gives you the opportunity to put yourself in that kind of shoes. Like, imagine yourself meeting your favorite idol, falling in love with him without knowing that he's an idol, and then you discover that he's like this international star, and it's just funny. It's cute and funny, so I think that it will be a lovely read. And again, perfect for summer, but even for other moments throughout the year. With a complete change of tone, we have a science fiction novella by the beloved Becky Chambers. This is the first one in a series, I believe, and it's A Psalm for the Wild Build. This one has a very interesting premise, and I know that Becky Chambers is hugely loved. I have some of her books on my wishlist and on my TBR, but I have not still got there yet, even if I have this strong feeling that I will love her works. So that's the reason why I'm just expecting and waiting for this book to come to me in a form or another in the future. And in this one, we are in this reality where robots gain self-awareness, and so suddenly they decided to leave the human world and just go living in the woods, except that one day one robot comes back with one single question, and it's, what do people need? Humans, people need. And this is a huge question, so I believe that there will be a lot of space for very deep and philosophical developments, and it seems that quiet yet involving kind of story, so I hope that in the future I will be able to listen to it or read it and that I will enjoy it. Then we have a historical fantasy that's also adult, and it's the first one in a series, I believe, or a trilogy or whatever, with this beautifully amazing cover that really attracts me because of its colors. It really reminds me of The Priory of the Orange Tree as far as color scheme is concerned, so I love this color scheme. It's really pops out, like, and this is She Who Became the Sun. In this one, we are following our main protagonist, who was supposed to become nobody, and her brother was supposed to become this great person, but something happens and she ends up taking her brother's place. She ends up going, like, pretending to be a monk, and then to pretend to be someone different again. So this book is set in China in a very specific year. It's 1345. So we're in the midst of the war between China and Mongols. So a very specific historical setting, and apparently it is marketed as a Mulan retelling, but I'm picky with this definition just because the last times it was used it wasn't very appropriate, so I don't know if it will be like, I mean, yeah, we have a girl who dresses up like a man. It doesn't make it Mulan-like necessarily, but I think that in this one we will be following our main protagonist, whose destiny will be that of becoming someone very, very great, and it has all of the potential for a very epic developments, stories, battles, and stuff like that. So definitely I'm anticipating that one. Plus it gives me the idea of being a chunker. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just, the feeling is that of a chunker. Next is a young adult fantasy romance. This one feels actually kind of generic in that specific way of some of the lately published books, because we have fays and fairies, and we have a girl in between two courts and two boys, I believe, even from the cover, because the book is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. And in this one we're following our main protagonist, who wants to free her sister from the unseelie king, who asks her to get something from the Seelie court. So she's caught in between these two courts, rivaling courts. But the reason why I'm anticipating this one is that actually I love the concept of the Seelie and Unseelie court. I always try to find new books that will like explain and show me different ways of portraying this kind of contraposition. So this is something that I enjoy usually. So even if it's kind of usual and nothing too new, at least apparently added to the game, I'm still curious for this one. It's not the highest on my wish list, but still I believe that there will be some interesting aspects in it, hopefully. And the last one that I have here for July is again a fantasy, the first one in a duology, a trilogy, a series, no idea, and it's Lady or the Lion by Amna Qureshi, I believe. I don't know if I'm butchered that name, I'm so sorry. But the thing that really got me is that it's a retelling, but it's a retelling of a fairy tale, I believe, in Pakistan-inspired setting. And the fairy tale is The Lady or the Tiger. And I know nothing about that specific fairy tale. That will be something that I will for sure go and try to find eventually and read eventually. But it seems just interesting to have something with that kind of setting that sounds different. And apparently we're following our main protagonist, who is a spoiled, a bit bratty princess in a country where her grandfather, I believe, is accused of some wrongdoings, and in order to fix and show the good intentions of this country, they decide to open their borders, so some ambassadors and some people from the outside are starting to get into the kingdom, and she meets this ambassador and there is a fling between them. And I don't know much more than that. I know that it sounds very, very vague, but the idea of a Pakistan set book really sounds interesting, and the cover is a bit different from the things that we're used to see usually in these days. It seems a little bit more retro, if I may tell, and I just hope that I will enjoy it, and for sure I will try and find more about the fairy tale from which this retelling comes from. Then we have a fantasy young adult that apparently is a standalone. And it is called A Dragon Bird in the Fern. And in this one we're following our main protagonist, whose sister been killed, and the prince to whom this sister was betrothed asks for our protagonist's hand to kind of compensate for the loss of the bride. And this sister who was killed is now a ghost that kind of goes around the kingdom and do a lot of bad things, and she kind of punishes all of the people who are in love and stuff like that. And our main protagonist wasn't supposed to be a bride to go abroad. She is not very well skilled in languages and stuff like that. She never was good at it, but then suddenly, so she's kind of reluctant to go with that prince, but then she discovers that her sister probably was killed by someone from that kingdom by the orders of the king of that kingdom. So now she really wants to go there and to figure out what happened and to get revenge, I believe. So it sounds like an interesting concept for a standalone book. I love that it's standalone. I hope that this will stay like that. Like, I really, really hope it, because please stop publishing standalones that later become series. And so I hope that I will enjoy this one, and this one was released in August. Then we have an LGBTQ+ fantasy young adult, and it's The Wild Ones. First of all, let's appreciate the cover. It's so colorful and just beautiful with this pinkish and purplish tones. I just love it. And in this one we're following a group of girls who've been all saved by this strange magical boy who basically gave them stars, and they discover, so their main purpose in life is to help other girls like them, someone who was oppressed, someone who was abused in some ways, and then they discover that this boy is in danger and he's kind of persecuted, so they try to save him. And I love this kind of reverse idea of a group of girls saving a guy, and it sounds funny and an easy concept with some great dynamics of sisterhood, I believe. So I hope that this one will be worth it, plus it's a standalone again. Yes. And the last one is an adult fantasy, and this one is the first one in, again, duology trilogy series, not sure. with this very particular cover, and it's called The Hand of the Sun King. It has some great reviews already, and I will just read you what Goodreads says. It says, "All my life I have been torn between two legacies, that of my father, whose roots trace back to the right hand of the emperor, that of my mother's family, who reject the oppressive empire and embrace the resistance. I can choose between them, between protecting my family or protecting my people. Or I can search out a better path, a magical path filled with secrets, unbound by empire or resistance, which could shake my world to its very foundation. But my search for freedom will entangle me in a war between the gods themselves." So this sounds epic enough for me to pique my interest, plus having a character who is in between family alliances, generational alliances, always seems very interesting. And so this is the last book that I have that was released in August, and if you're interested you can go and pick it up because it's out there already. Yeah, that's my excuse for being late in these videos. Yeah, this is it. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below again if you've already read some of this, if you're interested in some of this, or if you have other books that have been released in July and August. As you may see, I've not spoken in front of the camera for a while and my English is very rusty, so I really need to step up my game and get back to business here. But I hope that you still appreciate this video, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye! Ciao!